And I'm going to mute everyone until we get started. Hi, everyone. Sorry for that echo. We'll be getting ready here in just a second. A few more people to join, and we'll be with you very soon. Thanks for attending. Thanks for showing up today. All right. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'll invite my panelists back on. Thank you so much for being here today, especially on this beautiful, beautiful Tuesday. Hello, hi Susie. And thank you for joining this really special event. I'm incredibly excited to be here with everyone, including our panelists. My name is Gabby Diaz. I am the membership manager for Oregon Wild. And before we get started, we're just going to go over a few housekeeping things. So just a bit of run of show. Our hour-and-a-half long event for today will go and see some exclusive behind the scenes footage of Nowhere's Wolf, a stop motion animation film. From there, we'll dive into a discussion about the role of art in advocacy, and then it'll be time for some Q&A after the presentation. But throughout it, if you have a question, please go ahead and submit it into the chat box at the bottom right of your screen. If suddenly the screen freezes or you lose the presenter's slide deck, try closing out of your browser completely, rejoining using the event link that was emailed to you about an hour ago. If you're on mobile, you should be able to control which view you're seeing and how big it is by tapping on your screen. A video of this webcast will be emailed tomorrow. We'll be able to find it on our website at oregonwild.org and our Wild blog. If you got a raffle ticket, and thank you so much to everyone who purchased one, we have some incredible prizes. Please check your email tomorrow to see if you've won. We'll contact the winners and confirm your mailing address, and please respond saying that, yes, that's the right one. And with that, I would like to introduce our panelists. Today I'm joined by Oliver Stiefel from Crag Law Center, Don Smallman from the Portland EcoFilm Fest, and Susie Moulton, director and lead fabricator of Nowhere's Wolf. So welcome, all of you. And this is, again, a really special event because we're coming together to celebrate OR7, Oregon's arguably the most famous wolf. He was also known as Journey, likely passed away this past winter, which we'll get into a little bit. But he was the first wolf confirmed west of the Cascades since 1947, which in other words means that wolves have been missing from this landscape for over 80 years. He is incredible. His story is incredible because he traveled solo for thousands of miles across snow-capped peaks and alpine lakes and meadows and forests in search of a mate. And he found one. He had a few litters of pups. His grand pups are now roaming around Oregon, which is pretty incredible. And his story really goes to show the tenacity and resiliency of the species. So with that, I would like to kick it over to Susie to tell us a little bit more about the film and what we can expect for today.
For today, we're going to be showing you the pitch film, the pitch for the video, and that just give you a little overview of what our project is. And then after that, there's 4 featurettes showing the talent of different members of our crew. We have over 30 artists working on this film, and this just shows just a few of them. And Leila Chieco edited these together, and she also filmed all of the footage. So it's just a real project of people putting their hearts out for this. So I hope you enjoy.
All right, and here we go, the exclusive behind the scenes footage of Nowhere's Wolf. And once I get, oh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Sorry, everyone.
A wolf named Journey searches for a new family and something to put in his tummy. He is hopeful and playful, and even finds a snack that reminds him of happy puppy days. He bounds with excitement as he discovers a new wolf pack. Will they accept him? This is Nowhere's Wolf, a call not answered. Our first stop-motion short film inspired by a real-life wolf named Journey, also known as Wolf OR7. Journey's story is an uplifting and relatable narrative of yearning to belong and of connecting with family. We're making this film with felt and fabric, which combined with stop-motion magic makes learning about wolves fun and accessible to all. Hi, I'm Suzanne Moulton, and I've worked for over 10 years in the stop-motion feature film industry, helping create puppets for films including Coraline, Frankenweenie, Paranorman, and many commercials and indie films. Throughout this experience, I realized I really wanted to use my talents to create a positive image for the wolf. I grew up on a farm, and I understand what a tough life it is taking care of livestock. You care about your animal safety and well-being. What I want to help people understand is how wolves can be a part of that equation. Our project aims to overcome fear with respect and bring people together to understand how wolves can be beneficial to everyone. Our team includes Suzanne Twining, our lead animator and award-winning filmmaker, Leila Chiego, an award-winning editor, Jorge Martinez, a visual effects artist and cinematographer, Sarah Schellis, a puppet armaturist, and many other fabricators. And we are also working with an original music composer, Dave Worth. We've built all of the main puppets and a portion of the sets. The goal of our film is twofold. I've always felt that social and environmental justice go hand in hand. Many people don't realize just how toxic some of the materials are when used every day to make miniatures. This film project is a platform to help spread awareness about chronic exposure to toxic materials that many artists face around the world. Through the course of this film's production, I've focused on developing non-toxic alternatives to help create safer work environments. When you join us on this journey, we can compensate our artists, buy much-needed equipment, and complete our film so that we can make it available as soon as possible to help the future of wolves, and be proud to say, now here's Wolf.
All right. I still get chills. I've seen those clips a few times and I still get chills every time I see them because they are just incredibly well done, well made. I I'm just blown away the amount of craftsmanship and the amount of patience that goes into this. Um, so yeah, just blown away. And Susie, what an incredible project to be working on. And please tell us a little bit about about the film and what your inspiration was behind it and a little bit of what goes into making this. There we
There.
there we go.
Yay!
Awesome. Yay! Working this
Um, I've been a wildlife artist for a while, and a lot of the friends I work with in the industry and stop motion, we've been chatting for a long time about doing a project together and wanting to do something to support wildlife in the state. And more and more, we kept on hearing sad news in the headlines and about wolves, and we just felt like something had to be done. And many of us grew up with a much different story around wolves than most people, seeing them as part of an intricate part of the environment, very important, and not maybe as much of part of the mythos from Eastern Europe, where where like Little Red Riding Hood comes from, and werewolves and things like that, where it's all based on sick wolves and warnings about wolves with rabies. I didn't grow up with that kind of view of wolves, so I wanted to share that love with more people and do a project in stop motion. That's sort of the industry I'm from.
Oh, absolutely. And it looks like you're here, or you're coming to us from your set.
Yes,
Is
so
that
this is,
journey right
yes, this is the puppet that is our, you know, Wolf Ore 7, and he has ball joints and just a little bit of wire like in his ears. He's fully posable, and he's actually sort of in this pose because he's getting ready for his next shot when that becomes safe to do with our animator coming over, because this is our home studio. We're still making things for getting ready for the next shots coming up and the next set builds. Those are all in progress. We kind of do build multiple sets in small pieces. So we'll start out with, like, you saw a lot of vegetation, and we can make that all separately and in a different studio, and then bring in trays of all these vegetation made out of different fabrics and felt and yarn, and then apply it to this, and set dress, basically apply it to the stage. This stage here, you actually saw it in those featurettes a couple of times. It was dressed out as the green hill. It was dressed out as a clear-cut hill, and we just build new portions on top of it and to change the terrain, and we have a new set. And it's just, yeah, we've been able to kind of make things, get lots of use of it out of anything we build. So
yeah. Yeah, that's really incredible. How long does it take to build a set like that? Even just the rock set that you're at right now.
Well, it's kind of done in a bit of spare time of all of our different people that have volunteered. It can take a month or two to do, and as I said, we're doing like multiple sets at a time. So if we can build rocks for one set, we'll build rocks for everything, or we'll reuse like the ferns you saw. Those have, we repopulate those, and we also save bits of our set too for eventually we want to have them as little vignettes to show at different libraries or granges, so it can go on the road and it can visit people and they can see the wolf puppets in their terrain, and they can recognize it as, especially here in Oregon, like, hey, that's a mountain that they've hiked before or something like that.
Yeah, that would be awesome, especially now, you know, the wolves in Oregon are expanding their territory a little bit. So to see them in different environments, yeah, it would be really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're definitely so proud to see to have wolves here in the Mount Hood Wilderness, and I think just this past year they had a litter. And
yeah, yeah.
it's pretty close to us, and so I'm just hoping someday to hear their howls.
And wouldn't that be incredible? I hope so too. That would be amazing. And kind of going in deeper into the stop motion, you know, aspect of it. I know Dawn, especially coming from documentary filmmaking, and you had a few questions for Susie.
Well, I just, yeah, I have a little bit of a background in stop motion too. And although I mostly work in documentary at the Portland EcoFilm Festival, that's most of what we're presenting are documentary films. Occasionally we're presenting animation, but stop motion animation is a typically rare format for cinema artists to be working in. And it's lovely when they do. So I just wanted to, I know Susie has a background in stop motion, but I was curious to know what you think stop motion as an art form allows you to do with this message that maybe other art forms wouldn't allow you to do as well.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot coming to this project. I also have a background in puppetry, live action puppetry. I worked for a one-man show and doing rod puppets, and you know, consider something like that. It's just with stop motion, I just kind of went back to my childhood and thought about how I'm a little person, I'm small, and how I wanted to relate and make like small versions of the big world. And I thought this would be a really great way to reach children and get children interested and start on a level that's not ferocious or scary as wolves are often shown, that they can kind of see, hey, this guy's littler than me. I want to care for him because he's just a little guy. And they can also relate to it and say, hey, I can make something like that. And so with this project, we also came up with some workshops where kids and parents and anybody can come into the workshop and they can needle felt their own wolf or paint a wolf totem or a variety of paint a wolf portrait, a variety of different skill levels and skills, and they can do it and take it home and then continue and even get excited to make their own films. And now with technology, it seems like doing a stop motion animation is getting much more accessible. Like you can get a little app for your phone and you can try it out. And yeah, I just wanted to do something that would really get kids engaged and not fear the puppets.
Yeah, I know, that's so cool. Part of me just wants to reach through the screen and pet the wolf. And you know, Susie, we had an opportunity to interview you last year as part of a Oregon Wild interview. And something you said was, as artists, we can use our talents to address these issues and help change perceptions. So what do you hope people will take away from this film?
Yeah, it's the more I looked into wolves, I kept on seeing a lot of different motifs going on in the issues, and a lot it came back to how we see wolves and how they're portrayed in the media, how they're portrayed in films, and how they're just always made into the villain. And it's just very rare to see a film where they're shown as the family animal. They're shown as caring, adopting orphans. There are stories about this, and there are a few films out there, but it's not the major portion of it. And as artists, we can really generate more art about the creatures we love that shows people these sides that they don't normally get exposed to. And we can start to change the tide and see a much more positive view of the wolf come out of that. And so I've reached out to a lot of different artists on social media, and a lot of artists are doing this. They're making beautiful art about the wolf and really supporting that with facts and science behind that wolf that shows what a amazing creature they are, and takes us away from the old views of them being vermin. And that's just really important to all the artists working on this project.
Yeah, art really is a catalyst for change, and I think that's a big reason why we're all here, is that, you know, in some shape or form, art has inspired us to take action or to do something and advocate on the behalf of wolves. I know I've definitely seen that. I think everyone here has inspired me to do more of that. So thank you. And as you know, as we talk more about this role of art in activism, there's so many different ways you can do that. One of it is stop motion animation. Some of that is film. And Dawn, kind of directing this your way, you know, as the director of the Portland EcoFilm Fest, you've paired local nonprofit organizations with some film screenings. And I've been a part of that over the past few years. I've really enjoyed it. And just talking to people that maybe you wouldn't necessarily talk to because you're bringing groups in that space. So my question for you is, what has been the impact from these interactions?
Well, I think it's important to give people different doorways into topics like wolf advocacy or so many other environmental issues. And so to me, it's a perfect world, projects like what we're doing here today, where we're talking with Oregon Wild, with the filmmaker, and also with the Crag Law Center, because there will be some people who will come to EcoFilm, and we partner with both Oregon Wild and Crag has both been sponsors and partners of ours in the past for screenings. And it's very interesting if you can use the film as a way that people will engage, and then explain a little bit more in conjunction with the topic that the film brings up, and inspire some advocacy. So hopefully folks who come out to like our screenings are then learning more about the work that Crag Law Center is doing, learning more about the work that Oregon Wild's doing, signing up for emails for them, and engaging. And I just had a lovely email and phone call from somebody who actually was first a person who attended our festival and then became a juror at our festival another year. And then now she just did her first testimony in favor of beaver protection last week at a Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife hearing. So that's like, to me, that's the brass ring. That's what we're all going for. And so she might have been a moviegoer first, and I know she was first, and then she ended up being somebody who's actually giving testimony, you know, at a state level, working in junction with, you know, law groups such as Crag or other advocacy groups such as Oregon Wild, to try to help, you know, bite at the problem from a bunch of, nibble at it from a bunch of different sides. So that's like, to me, the best case scenario, and why we're really interested in Nowhere's Wolf. You know, it was wonderful that the development director at Crag Law Center introduced us to the film a while ago. And then I know that, well, what's been going on behind the scenes is basically the three organizations have been working with the filmmaker to try to find a way that we could help her get the word out. I hope folks tuning in today will be up for having bought that raffle ticket, and then also maybe visit that GoFundMe site, because stop motion is like, it's an amazing thing where it's magic when it's finished, but it's very tedious, very hard, very expensive filmmaking to do, very time consuming and labor intensive. And so you know, I hope that the strength of having an advocacy group like Oregon Wild and a legal advocacy group like Crag Law helping to back this film, we can do the same thing. We can bring all of our people and help get this film made, because it's a really important one, and it's just beautiful and magical. I love what you're creating, Susie, and you and your team.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Susie, can you tell us a little bit about, you know, part of this event is helping to fundraise the completion of the film, and, you know, from where it goes from there is kind of limitless. So for the funds that we do raise today, what will that go towards, and what will that support?
So that's the funds from this event are going to go towards sound and music production for our film. We are working with Dave Worth, who's a composer out of, he's a longtime friend, and he's out of Austin, Texas. And he's going to be working with a lot of out-of-work musicians. So, and we'd like to get them some cash and get them some money. So it's going to be for that. If we, you know, get some more funds, then it's also for sound production, for doing the Foley. And then the main thing that we really need to reach out, and this might be a great thing, any of you viewers out there, is if you have a personal connection with someone in the Nez Perce community who is a wolf expert and can make the actual wolf calls, we're really looking for that individual or that community to partner with on this project, and get a person to actually make the wolf language for our film. We've tried a lot of routes of sourcing wolf calls, but we really need somebody to do it in a studio for our film. And we have found one individual that can do it. His name is Sean Ellis, and he and his wife run this amazing organization called I think it's the Wolf and Dog Center, and where they rehabilitate traumatized dogs with what they've learned from wolf social behavior. And he can do amazing wolf wolf vocalizations. They sound like the wolf, and the wolves respond to it. He's lived with wolves, and he actually learned from a teacher from the Nez Perce tribe. So we've just not had luck with finding that contact, but if anybody out there has a personal connection, we'd just love to hear from you and help us make this film even more just beautiful with that partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope so. I mean, the wolf supporter community is very strong. So, you know, in between everyone who's watching today and our connections, I hope we can find someone to do that. We're had an Oregon Wild staff meeting earlier, and we joked that we're all going to audition for you and do our best wolf call. We have someone on staff who's pretty good at it, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we definitely need an expert that we want to reflect wolf language in this. And I'm of the belief that wolves have a culture. They have a language, and the first tribes had a relationship with them, and we'd love to give voice to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of working with different people, I know you've worked on another project with Crag, Dottie the owl, which if you haven't, for those watching who you haven't seen it yet, definitely Google Dottie the owl. It's incredible stop motion animation. And can you tell us a little bit about that project and that partnership and between, you know, artists and nonprofits coming together for conservation?
Yeah, well, we wanted to make sort of a spokesperson that would stand out, and so we made an owl, and her name is Dottie, and so she talks about forest fire, and we animated her. I built her. Suzanne Twining, who is our animation director on Nor's Wolf, she did the animation for her, and I believe, Oliver, you might be able to speak to who was the voice for Dottie the owl, and how your organization has actually represented her as well. But in Nowhere's Wolf, we actually give a nod to that film, to that whole film series. The Dottie Owl, Thriving with Fire is the name of the series, and that we incorporate a regrown burnt forest into our sets. So
yeah, thanks. So Dottie is narrated by a young woman named Kelsey Juliana from Eugene, Oregon, and she is a youth plaintiff in several lawsuits, including one against the state of Oregon for the state's failure to address climate change, and she is also the lead plaintiff in the federal lawsuit, you know, on the quest for intergenerational climate justice. So she's doing some really cool things and did this fun side project.
That is so cool. I didn't know that was her. That makes me love it even more. That's awesome. Oh man. And speaking of Crag's work and everything that you do, Oliver, I'd love to ask you about your work, and I'm going to pull up your slides here in just a second, and tell us a little bit about Crag and what you're all about.
Okay, yeah, so we'll shift gears a little bit now to kind of more of the advocacy side, but at the end I promise to circle back a little bit. And an event like this is so cool where we can kind of do the cross-pollination. So yeah, I'm Oliver Stiefel. I'm a staff attorney with Crag Law Center. I'll start my presentation today with a little bit about our organization, Crag, and then talk about some of our work that we've done to protect wolves and wolf habitat in Alaska and Oregon. You can switch. Thanks, Gabby. So Crag Law Center, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our mission is to provide free and low-cost legal services to individuals, Native American tribes, communities, and other nonprofit organizations We do education, advocacy, policy work, and of course, litigation. And I think our tagline really sums up the work that we do, and that's legal aid for the environment. You can go to the next slide. So our work really straddles 3 program areas: communities, the wild, and climate. So our communities program, we do a lot of land use advocacy and environmental justice work. Our climate work, we work with groups to address the impacts of climate change, and that includes some of our work representing the youth plaintiffs and the intergenerational climate justice work. And on this evening, we work to promote sound forest management, sustainable outdoor recreation, and then of course, protecting and restoring habitat for native fish and wildlife. You can switch. You can go to the next slide, Gabby.
Oh,
great. So our Alaska work. This is some really cool work that we've done up in the Tongass National Forest in Southeast Alaska. So from about 2009 to 2018, we represented a number of organizations up there to protect the coastal wolves, which are sometimes referred to as the Alexander Archipelago wolves. And what we were really trying to do is protect these wolves from clear-cut logging operations in the Tongass. So contrary to what a lot of people may believe, logging is authorized on national forest lands, unlike national park lands. And the Tongass really is the only forest left in the country that is still authorizing clear-cut logging operations. So in the lower 48, something like 96 or 97% of the historical old growth forest has been cut down. And so the old growth forests of the Tongass are really this unique and globally important relic. In fact, the Tongass, I think, contains about 1/3 of all the remaining temperate old growth rainforest that's left in the world. Some of the trees in the Tongass are about 1,000 years old. Next.
Bit of a delay, but
So,
it's going.
Oh yeah, no worries. So I bet you guys came here thinking this was a presentation about wolves, not trees. But what we see is that wolves and the health of wolf populations are really inextricably linked to healthy forest ecosystems. And up in the Tongass National Forest, that's really because of the wolf's primary prey, which is a subspecies of mule deer called the Sitka black-tailed deer. And so the deer are really dependent on old growth forests, especially in winter. So what happens is the tall broken canopy of old growth forests blocks the heavy snow accumulation, but it also allows sufficient light to penetrate to the forest floor to create an abundance of forage. And so these patches of low elevation old growth forest are really refuges for the deer and prevent big winter die-offs. And so research on the Tongass has shown that about 75% of the wolf's diet is comprised of Sitka black-tailed deer. So to protect Alaskan coastal wolves, we really focused on protecting the old growth forest habitat for the deer. On surrounding state and private lands in Southeast Alaska, there are very few restrictions on logging. And so protecting habitat on federal forest land is really of paramount importance. And this area is incredibly vast. The Tongass is about 17 million acres, but only maybe 2 or 3% of that acreage is covered with the really high value old growth forest that provides that sanctuary habitat. But unfortunately, these areas are literally on the chopping block. So we have litigated about 8 timber sales and protected thousands of acres of old growth forests, but the fight really continues to protect this critical habitat. Go to the next slide. So moving closer to home here in Oregon, and these photos are from the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife and the recent wolf management update. So ODF&W just released its 2019 annual report. State biologists counted 158 wolves in Oregon in 22 packs, and that's about a 15% increase from 2018. So these photos going from left to right, these are pups, new pups in the newly established 5 Mile pack, which is in Morrow County. The middle one is the breeding female from the Wanaha pack. in northeastern Oregon, and then the one on the right is another wolf from the Winaha pack who's cooling off on a hot summer day. You can go to the next one. So I'll share another quick anecdote from some of our work, and it really shares a theme with our Alaska work, and that is the importance of protecting habitat for wolf prey on public lands. So over the last few years, we worked with a number of organizations, including Oregon Wild, to challenge a very ill-conceived project to build a 150-mile network of off-road vehicle trails in the Ochoco National Forest, which is right in the heart. Big issue in the Ochoco is that it's already heavily roaded. Past logging, mining, and other projects have left a vast legacy of roads, and that's really shrunk the amount of available habitat for Rocky Mountain elk, which in this part of Oregon is the wolf's primary prey. So this map shows an outline of the Ochoco National Forest, and this is actually about a 800,000 acre area, and all the squiggly lines there are roads. So we see that the area is super heavily roaded, high motorized route densities, and there's just these little pockets. This is the brown kind of with the red crosshatch of areas where there aren't high motorized route densities, and these are the areas that elk go for shelter. So the elk, in order to support a number of their critical life cycle functions, really need areas of low disturbance. But what happens is when elk don't have places to go for breeding and other periods of their life, what they do is go down to private lands, which are have very few roads. And what happens invariably is that the wolves follow their prey down to the private lands, and that really sets up the potential for conflict. And unfortunately, wolves often get the short end of the stick in that conflict. So our best management approach on these public lands is to really try to decrease route densities, not increase route densities by adding a project with 150 miles of ORV trails. So luckily we were able to stop this project, but we really do need to stay vigilant to protect the high quality habitat on public lands. You can go to the next one. So you guys are all here today because you care deeply about wolves. So I would be remiss if I didn't leave you with a few action items. The first thing that I'd say is that in order to be effective litigators, we really need a strong legal tool chest. So at the top of that list is the Endangered Species Act. But there's a number of people, many interest groups that absolutely hate the ESA, particularly because it can be so effective in protecting species and their habitat. So for many years, special interest groups and conservative politicians have done everything that they can to erode the Endangered Species Act. And one consequence that we've seen is with respect to wolves and wolf management in Oregon. So this map shows kind of this patchwork of ESA protections that's afforded wolves in Oregon. So wolves in central and the western part of the state, basically to the left of the blue line, are protected under the ESA, but wolves to the east of that blue line, which is Highway 395, aren't subject to any ESA protections. So we know that wolves are highly mobile creatures. Individual wolves can disperse over huge distances in search of new territories and new mates. Obviously, these wolves don't recognize invisible management boundaries. So the consequence is that you could have a dispersing wolf who is protected under the ESA to the west of Highway 395, but as soon as she crosses over, she loses the ESA protections. So the other thing that I'd say about this is that the ESA isn't just under threat as it relates to individual species. The Trump administration really is dead set on gutting the ESA, and in fact has passed some regulations that really significantly undercut the scope and reach of the ESA. So luckily those regulations are being litigated as we speak, but I think all of this just goes to show the importance of electing public officials who are committed to safeguarding species conservation and biodiversity. So my takeaway is to get out there and use your political capital, elect politicians that are committed to protecting the Endangered Species Act and even strengthening it. You can go to the next slide, Gabby. So my next action item is to get out there and take an active role in agency decision making. To protect wolves, we've really seen today, I think, the importance of protecting high quality habitat on public lands. Every day, the Forest Service, other federal land managers and state agencies are making decisions that directly impact public lands, your lands. But we all have agency here and can get out there and take collective action and help shape better decisions. I know that groups like Oregon Wild in particular have great resources for getting involved in public comment periods and in other action items. So get out there and stay active. Go to the last slide. So the last thing that I say is that just again expressing my appreciation for an event like this that marries art and advocacy. A lot of the work that I do can be pretty technical and a little bit abstract, and you know, for instance, talking about these regulatory changes to the Endangered Species Act, it wouldn't be particularly inspiring if I lectured about the regulatory changes to Title 50, Chapter 4, Subchapter A, Part 402 of the Code of Federal Regulations. But on the other hand, it is really inspiring to hear stories, see pictures, and to watch a film like Nowhere's Wolf. You know, looking at this picture of a Alexander Archipelago wolf, you know, to me, it really has the power to foster a deep connection, and a deeper connection than I could ever hope to generate by showing you a legal brief or something like that. So I know that this film is going to generate a lot of excitement and enthusiasm and passion. And my hope is that we can kind of harness that energy and really build a movement for wolf conservation. So yeah, with that, I'll turn it back to Gabby.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that. I mean, that really, you kind of hit the nail on the head with getting people activated and motivated and engaged to take action to protect our public lands, our forested areas, and the wildlife that call those lands home. I'll talk a little briefly about Oregon Wild's work. I am not the wildlife coordinator, but my colleague Danielle has been, you know, wolves are a big part of our campaign work, and especially as it relates to Journey. Back when Journey, you know, took his first steps into Oregon, we had a children's naming contest, and Journey was the winner, or the name that was chosen. So OR7 Journey, it kind of all came together, and we've been tracking OR7, mostly just following, you know, if he pops up on a trail cam, we get really excited, and we're glad to see him there. But our conservation work really is about protecting, you know, the 158 now in Oregon that are here. Recently this year, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, the management agency of wolves in the state, released their wolf report. There is some good news. Wolves have grown. The population has grown across the state. The state did not kill any wolves this year, which broke a 4-year streak of doing that. And then kind of on the flip side of that, there was no visual confirmation of OR7. So it is likely that he passed away, but he was an old wolf. I mean, 10, 11 years old in the wild, that doesn't happen very often. And one who traveled thousands of miles. And so this, I mean, his story, I think there is a little bit of, we can all relate to this journey and this kind of fight that we have to living a good life. So, and who knows, maybe he'll pop up on screen later, we're not sure. But one thing I also want to highlight from the wolf report that is important is that 5 wolves were killed due to vehicle collisions. Which just goes to show that we could do a better job of having connected habitat and connected corridors for wildlife crossings, especially as climate changes. You know, water sources are going to change, the landscape is going to change. So if we can ensure that animals have, you know, a robust path to move through, then that would be better for our wildlife and for our ecosystems across the state. And
Could I
so
ask something about Washington right now? Because I know a lot of folks probably are watching from the Pacific Northwest. On June 19th, Washington's Department of Fish and Wildlife issued a lethal, what they call lethal action on the Togo pack. So they've already taken out the male of that pack, and now they are going to, I think it's yet determined how many of the pack members. There's the breeding female and the offspring are still around, but they are going to take lethal action because a calf was, a rancher's calf was impacted, they think, or the state claims, by one of the Togo pack members, although a lot of people are questioning the science. So it's very interesting to me to be at the center of like art and messaging and advocacy and legal advocacy. And you see how projects like this film, what they basically do, or the contest that Oregon Wild did, coming up with a name for OR7 and naming OR7 Journey, is you kind of get these ambassadors. You get people, the animals need the people's help. And when the people can help by making the animal an ambassador, by capturing them on trail cams, by making beautiful art, stop motion films like this one about them, but can help those animals' stories get told, I think it becomes a good rallying cry for the public. And I think part of the rallying cry is to get involved and say, you know, we want new methods besides just killing these animals. These animals have their own important place in the ecosystem, like Oliver was explaining to us, that everything is connected. And so I really hope that folks who are here today will at least look into what's going on with the Togo pack in Washington right now, because I know that there's a lot of folks who advocate for them in the state of Washington who are asking for comments to go to Governor Inslee up in Washington state and see whether we can affect some change. If, you know, that we all, as climate change and a bunch of other environmental justice and for humans, and also environmental justice for animal kind of issues happen, I think we all need to be advocating for kinder ways of dealing with conflict, kinder ways of understanding with each other, whether it's wolf advocates and ranchers or any other groups of people. We have to find a way to live more harmoniously with each other. So I'll get off my soapbox now. I just wanted to make folks aware about the Togo pack.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
well
that's, yeah, and that's one reason why we definitely wanted to work with Sean Ellis, because he was working with a rancher in Europe, where they were using a non-lethal, a very new kind of tactic to kind of make the ranch land into a false wolf territory by emitting the calls of a fake wolf pack. And so he was working with them and had a lot of success with that. And that's something I would love to see used more and developed more, a program supported for it, so that ranchers have more tools that work with the wolves' senses that are much more distant. Right now, it seems like all of the non-lethal deterrents rely on visual, and that's when the wolf is very up close. And if you can work with their hearing, which is a very sensitive, one of their very sensitive senses, or a sense of smell, to define a territory that then other animals can cross, but the wolves will respect it because they believe there's another wolf pack that they don't want to come in contact with. And this would help with a lot of different things out there. And I just wanted to give some a little voice to that story, that we have a lot of hopeful tools that can be developed. And yes, please write or draw a picture of a wolf and send it to your lawmakers. Show them how much you care. I think Oregon Wild, Gabby, you can talk to this too, is that last year, the Congress and the Senate were flooded with millions of public comments in support of wolves. And so we just need to keep it up so that they keep on hearing these things.
Absolutely. And we know that, yeah, go ahead, Oliver.
Sorry, Gabby. I just wanted to pick up on that thread real quick, because advocacy, it's so important not just to focus on telling public officials and agencies what not to do, but also to tell them what you want them to do. And so I think, the example that Susie was talking about, of coming up with unique and effective ways of non-lethal conflict, dealing with those conflicts, is so important. And then, the fact that Oregon didn't have any lethal removal of wolves in 2019, is such an important story. And that's an opportunity to tell ODF&W, good work, So, I think it's incumbent on us as advocates not just to always, and it's critically important to stand up and tell public agencies no, and to stand up against bad projects, but it's equally important just to stand up and tell them when they're doing the right thing. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. On that note, I go to rallies and I go to public comment hearings, and I was able to talk directly with I think the director of ODFW, the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the lead biologist. And I said, why is it not possible to look at other revenue streams rather than always relying on logging or hunting license or cattle feed rentals for your revenue? Like, I know that organizations like BARC have talked about restoration as a really as a great source for new jobs and alternative jobs for loggers, and also a bigger revenue stream for the ODFW to manage, rather than I think logging is only at, and it's combined with other extractive resource things like mining, it's only 2% of Oregon's overall revenue, where recreation is something like 80 or higher. And there is a great opportunity there to get change the revenue streams for maybe an outdated charter that the ODFW runs by. But that, when I talked to them, they said that has to come from the public. That request has to come from people that are viewing this. You can tell the ODFW you want to see these changes, and then they will know that that's feasible and that they have support for it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We can have a conservation tag.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so the louder that we can be and the more we can engage and, use our power to instigate this collective movement. The louder that we are, the better change that we can effectuate. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think change is a really important word right now, as we're seeing climate change bearing down and affecting everything. We're seeing social change sort of hatching globally across the world in this moment in a really strong way. I think as we're encountering all these changes, it really behooves us to look at whether the old methods that we've had in place for a long time are really serving our communities well. And if you look at wolf policy, I think it's a perfect example. Or another perfect example that people are particularly engaged in here has to do with salmon advocacy and bringing down the dams in order to restore the salmon, as opposed to, like, there's been a recent announcement that they're going to potentially kill a lot of cormorant, double-crested cormorants, in an effort to try to bring back salmon. And everything shows that you just need to bring those dams down in order to bring the salmon back. And everything else is just kind of like this old school, outdated, non-scientific based ideology or practice that's just been in place because it used to work, or it used to be the thing that they thought worked. But as we're getting more changes coming our way and more rapidly with climate change, we really need to rely on science-based solutions. And we really need, as the public, to be able to be saying, we want your numbers that show that killing these wolf packs actually, results in things the way we want them to be, not just less wolves, but also what is that doing to these environments? What is taking out the key predator in an environment doing to the entire environment and all the species there? What is it doing to the cleanliness of the streams? I mean, everything is connected. So I hope that as we're encountering these changes, people will look at these old methods, such as revenue streams based on killing animals through hunting licenses, being one of the main things and one of the main stakeholders that the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife talks to and listens to. Is that really where their focus should be? And I believe, with, like Susie said, with all the recreation dollars that are, pour into public lands from people who actually want the wildlife, honor the wildlife, care about the wildlife, and are very interested in having the wildlife there maintained intact. Our voices need to be part of the mix just as much as the folks who want the hunting tags to be in the mix.
Heck yes. We can all make a phone call to ODFW tomorrow. We'll send out the phone number with our follow-up email. Thank you all so much. I want to switch gears just a little bit and save some time for questions and answers and final thoughts for today. So Susie, I've got a question for you. Do you use any recycled or reused fabrics in your set building?
Oh yes, absolutely. Nearly everything is I get from secondhand stores or Goodwill, that kind of thing. I also used recycled cardboard. I save boxes, and people, like different volunteers, bring me stuff that they save. This was before COVID, of course. But we built up a stock. Like, we were saving toilet paper roll tubes. We made a lot of trees out of those. We made trees out of all sorts of cardboard rolls from all different products. So we save those things, and then we put them all together, and that's this is like our magic. This is why I call paper tape, or everybody calls it paper tape, but it is like instant paper mache. So we can build it up, and layers of this become as hard as wood. So we have a nice, this is all built with crumpled pieces of cardboard and then layers of paper tape. And we use school glue, and rather than spray adhesives, we brush that on. I even came up with a formula for a vegan paste glue, because actually Elmer's stopped making their paste glue for some reason. And so yeah, it's a lot of recycled goods.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing a cereal box in one of or like the back of a cereal box too, when we came to visit this set not too long ago. Another question for you, Susie. The details of the set are amazing. Could you describe the smallest features you created?
Well, I guess the small pebbles here, they're just little pieces of felt fabric that are cut. And then we use the glue paste and glue them down, and use a little iron to iron those. These little pieces of yarn that we needle felt together, and then we apply it to the set. Then we have different kinds of fabric. Really, it's completely opposite of what's normally used in stop motion, is that I always look for really beefy weaves and fabrics, so that we can see the texture, and it can feel like granite, or it can feel like basalt, or you can kind of see the striping. And the same thing is used on little pieces for the fur too.
Nice.
And
speaking of,
sorry.
No, go ahead.
You have the big wolf head. I saw you had it before.
I have this guy.
So this is one of those great things that I think how art, furthers the cause. The first time I saw the big wolf head was actually when people were out at a public testimony in favor of wolf advocacy. And when the wolf heads entered the room, it was a whole different vibe.
Yeah, like people can come up to you and talk to you about wolves when you're holding one of these, and you can hand it to them and they can be like, oh, and they can make it talk, and then they have their stories that they share with you about wolves, and you really connect. And yeah, it just helps build the community to have these guys. And these are built with the same methods we're using on the film. So these are built out of cardboard, like egg crates and cereal boxes with the paper tape, and then just the fabric on top. So yeah, completely doable at your home.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Dang. We have speaking of the wolves, we have a question from a 9-year-old viewer. How long did it take to build the wolves?
To build the wolves, well, that gives me an opportunity to show you a couple of other ones. This is OR7's sister as a pup, and then this is OR7 as a pup. So you can see they're a little different size. We made these puppets a little bit bigger so that they would be a little bit more, we could get a little more emoting out of all their faces. These, they also have a little brother, but he's in another place right now, in a little display. So these guys took about 3 weeks, and I built them all kind of together at the same time so that they'd be kind of built the same. These are different than that guy. These are actually built with wire, and they have a balsa wood head, and they have wire for all their limbs, and they have a stiffer wires for their bones. And they're needle felted, actually. So all of this fluffiness is all needle felted, and then a little coat of kind of like scales on a fish, but in fur form for their fur. And I'll be doing a tutorial. I have a YouTube channel called Susie's Workshop, and I'll be doing a tutorial where I'm going to make a version of this guy is actually going to be his mate, and she's going to be done with wire, but she's going to be to his scale. And these guys are even a miniature version. So this is who he's going to be howling at in the way background there. And these are also wire, and they're needle felted. They're just going to be for silhouette wolves. And yeah, they have all their limbs. I can show you there. So they're posable too. And the felt is just really great because you can just gently animate it on its own without putting wire in it.
Wow.
And well, these were done over several months because we actually had like six of them. There's 3 of them in 2 different positions. And yeah, they can take a couple of months to make.
Wow. Yeah, talk about patience and really slowing down and being in the moment of like, let's create some movement or expression. And that's fascinating.
Yeah, and these are built to last too.
Yeah, right. I mean, those wolf heads, you've had those for a while now, over a year, maybe?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Phew. Let me just pull one more question, and then we'll go to some final thoughts. So that question, I'll find it down here. What made you decide to use fabric as your primary textile?
Well, wire and textiles is kind of the medium that I sculpt in, but also I saw opportunity to make fur move in a different way that I hadn't seen on screen, and by making it out of little pieces of fabric. And so I started that way by I built some other animals as a test. I built some pronghorns and tested out how that would look. And then from there, I said, well, just got to do for continuity, do everything in that style. Let's see how like rocks look in fabric, and just if you stick, I feel like if you stick with one medium and you just do it full for everything, it can kind of bring its own magic. And I particularly like the combination of soft fabrics like felt and yarns, and putting those next to like more rigid fabrics like linens that you see here, and cottons. So you get like the whole kind of menagerie of cool textures to work with that you see out in the natural world.
Oh, yeah, that's incredible. And you know, we, as we're wrapping this up, we have so many different resources for folks to learn more about wolves, how to take action, what kids can do to help, you know, start their exploration and relationship with wildlife. We are going to send all of those resources to you. And I would just love to get some final thoughts from our panelists, from Susie, and we'll share some contact information for how you can stay in touch with us. So Dawn, please give us your final thoughts on this.
Forgot my mic. I'm just happy to see so many people show up today who are interested in wolves and interested in Nowhere's Wolf. We hope to continue at the Portland EcoFilm Fest supporting this film as it gets finished, and hopefully one day we'll be able to help bring it to you in some kind of viewer capacity as well. And that's it. We hope you'll join us at the Portland EcoFilm Fest, which happens the last weekend of September every year. And this year we're going to primarily be virtually online. If we are able at the Hollywood Theater, that's where we're a part of the Hollywood Theater here in Portland, Oregon. If we're able to have some in-person screenings, we may do that as well, but that remains to be seen. In the meantime, we just hope folks will consider donating to this film and this cause and engaging deeper in wolf advocacy. Thanks.
Yeah. Oliver.
So with my final thought, I just want to reemphasize the importance of building a movement and really collective action. A heartbreaking thing that we can see is, you know, we can litigate a case for a number of years and actually win, but then see that win undone in the political system. So just really shows the importance of electing officials who really care about protecting public lands and protecting habitat for wolves. So the critical importance of really kind of reimagining our value system, you know, decoupling some of our funding from those extractive industries, and you know, focusing more on preventing climate change and protecting habitat. So if you're interested in hearing more about the work that we do, Crag Law Center, you can go to www.crag.org. We have a number of events that you can find on our website, including our annual Wild Shots fundraiser, which is going to be an all virtual event this year. It's going to be really, really fun, and that's coming up in December. So check out our website.
Awesome. Thank you. And Susie, I want to give you the last word. So I'll just, a quick plug for Oregon Wild. I encourage everyone to invest in stories, to listen to each other, to advocate for what matters to you, to get involved in nonprofits and the artists doing this work, and to visit OregonWild.org. We've been hosting our wild webcasts every week for the past few months now, with our next one tomorrow. We're talking about bees because it's pollinator week. So tune in if you can, and share with your friends, with your family, and continue to use your voice, use whatever you have to make your voice heard and strengthen these community ties. So thank you so much for being here today. And Susie, how can we help your film? How can we finish it and see it? And yeah.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to Oregon Wild. I've supported them for a long time now, and they are having an art contest that is going through to the end of this month. So get your artwork into them. And Crag. I've been a supporter for Crag too. They let me support them through my art. And so if you're an artist, reach out to Crag and you can donate art to their Wild Shots auction. It's really helpful to them. And how you can help Noah's Wolf is you can go to our website, which is noahswolf.com, and we have all sorts of learning resources there, but we have an ongoing GoFundMe where you can just give what you can and we get it immediately. It's a really big help. And also, people that inspired our film, we're in contact with Becky Elgin, and these are 2 books that I highly recommend. If you have a child in your life, this is a great one about how Journey got his name. And then this is great chapter book for the teen in your life or adults. You want to learn about wolves. This is a really great one. And yeah, I just hope everyone enjoyed today. And you can also view our project and upcoming like tutorials on the YouTube channel, Susie's Workshop, or you can find me on Patreon.
Awesome. And one last thing, Susie, I love your necklace. The wolf amulet is gorgeous. Is there somewhere we can buy that?
I'm on Etsy. It's Susie's Tea Room, and this is the one that somebody's gonna win today.
Oh my gosh, it's beautiful.
So I have a limited number of them that I've made, and part of the proceeds are going to go to Oregon Wild to support wolves.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, again, thank you so much to everyone for attending, for spending your Tuesday evening with us. Thank you to Oliver. Thank you to Don. Thank you to Susie. I can't wait to continue this conversation and see you in the future when we can all be together again. So thank you. And with that, we are signing off. Thanks for attending, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Bye.